It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Well, how we doing? We all right? Season's over, 0-162. A terrible start to the New York Mets season as they lose to the Houston Astros 3-1. And I think what made this loss sting, what makes it sting as we react to it, let's say 5 minutes after it ended, is that it had to end with a Juan Soto strikeout. It just had to. And look, Juan was typical Juan Soto, wasn't he? First at-bat as a Met, rips a base hit up the middle. Second at-bat as a Met, basically, Framber Valdez wants nothing to do with him. He spits on a few. He draws a walk. They finally get him out in the sixth, and then he draws the 4-pitch walk in the eighth that started that rally. And then in the ninth, Josh Hader wants nothing to do with him. And as Josh Hader's pitching around them, I'm already envisioning Pete Alonso's like early moment for a lot of Met fans who are still on the fence in terms of, is he clutch? Can he come through? Can he build off of the great home run against the Brewers and what he did in the playoffs? And I was readying my brain for the overreaction to the Alonso at-bat. And for Juan Soto, who took a 3-0 slider right down the middle, not his fault, 3-0, he spit on it. 3-1, he elevates a little bit, going after a high fastball, and he just misses it. But a 3-2 slider that's buried in the dirt, the great Juan Soto, with the greatest eye in the world, swinging at that garbage? Like, I'm not burying him. I'm just saying that sucked. I'm saying that was a horrible ending to his Met debut, even though his Met debut was mostly good. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. I think the part that annoys me, and it shouldn't, is that as soon as Soto struck out and they lost this game, and it's one game, and we'll get to every aspect of this one game, but when he strikes out to end the game, and I can't be the only person that dealt with this phone I have right here with the beautiful Met logo on the background, it started to explode. Now, did it explode with Pete Hoffman saying, hey, let's do the Rico? No. Did it explode with the Mets text chat, breaking down the game? No. It exploded with Yankee fans basically spiking the football because Soto struck out to end the game in Houston after he did basically the exact opposite a year ago. And that should not annoy me. It should not annoy you. But in the moments after this opening day loss to the Astros, yeah, kind of pisses me off. I think going into that ninth inning, especially with the way the eighth inning ended, we all would have signed for the situation we got, which is somehow Josh Hader giving up back-to-back hits ahead of the count. That was the best part. He gives up back-to-back hits to Starling Marte and Tyrone Taylor ahead of the count. And you get the Acuna at-bat, which we'll spend a little bit more time on. The Senger strikeout is whatever, because let's be honest, every Met fan watching Hayden Senger, bases loaded, nobody out. You can tell me all you want about the great story. We're all thinking, just don't ground into a double play. That's literally the thought of every Met fan. I'm sure there were some Met fans, you know who you are, who were like, should we tell Hayden Senger not to swing the bat? Just take 3. And if Hader somehow walks you, let's have a party. And if he doesn't, okay, no problem. At least he didn't bounce into a double play. So to get, after this lifeless game, after everything about it, which again, we'll get into, to get 3-0, bases loaded, 1 out with Lindor and Soto up, you're going to sign for it every time. And Lindor just missed on the sac fly. And then you've got the Soto 3-2 slider. Everything else about that at-bat was fine. He spits on a few close ones. Actually, they weren't even that close, to be honest. He gets ahead of the count 3-0. He takes 3-0 fine. He elevates a little bit on 3-1 and just misses it, but he swings it that crap out of the strike zone. Ugh. I love Juan Soto. We all love Juan Soto. That sucked as a debut, even though, let me look at my box score here, 1 for 3 with 2 walks. So he's on base 60% of the time, but it does feel, I got to admit, in the moment, it feels like a really crappy debut when you strike out the way he strikes out. And you know what made it worse? You got Darling and Hernandez talking about all the great stats he has in Houston, the great numbers he has against Josh Hader. It just felt too good to be true. Even though the entire at-bat, I'm thinking he's just going to walk and it's going to come down to Pete. And we're going to get that early evaluation of Pete Alonso. But let's not be fooled, all right? Even though I started off with the Soto at-bat, and that's the lasting image, and that's probably the big thought coming out of a game like this, there are many other things from this 2-hour, 45-minute get-together with the Houston Astros that caused them to lose this game? A lot of things. How about the fact they couldn't score a damn run off Framber Valdez? Let's start with that. We'll examine Clay Holmes and how mediocre he was, but go back to the very first inning of this game. You get a Juan Soto base hit, which feels good. Alonso has the first of many really good at-bats. I think one of the positives you're going to take out of this game is the fact that Pete Alonso drew 2 walks. He had 3-3-2 counts. He took a lot of close pitches right off the edge of the strike zone. Pete looked good. And he also had a great scoop. So our scoopologist will be very happy on that 5-4-3 double play. But you're set up in the first inning against a clearly struggling Framber Valdez. Remember, the first out he got was a line drive in which Jeremy Pena made that great play on Lindor. He gives up the base hit to Soto. He walks Alonso. You set up with Vientos, who swings at the first pitch and grounds out. And then Brandon Nimmo swings at the second pitch, and it's a lazy fly ball to left field. So this is going to set the tone for missed opportunities early. And that's the thing when you face a good pitcher like Framber Valdez, one of the more reliable pitchers in baseball. You get opportunities early, you got to take advantage of it. This Met offense, in my estimation, and I think in most of our estimations, is going to need to be the strength of this team. They're going to have to score 5-6 runs a game. They got shut out for the first 8 1/3 innings. First inning, second and third, 2 outs. Nimmo pops up. Second inning, Marte gets hit by a pitch. The bottom of the order, which is clearly not going to be their strength until they get healthier, can't take advantage of it. Soto draws a walk. Alonso bounces out. Vientos grounds out. Then you let Valdez get into a groove. And then you've got the situation in the 5th inning. So Luis Torrens hits that little fly ball to right field. Cam Smith kind of misplays it a little bit, turns it into a double. After Lindor grounds out, you have a runner on second and 2 outs with Juan Soto at the plate. And at this moment in the game, you're down 3-0. And they talked about this on the broadcast. Because it's a 3-0 lead, Framber's going to go after Juan Soto. He's going to attack him because, as dangerous as he is, you're not giving the Mets the tying run at the plate for a slugger like Pete Alonso. So Soto comes up, even though there's a base open, in a situation in which you're thinking he's going to get good pitches to hit. And with one swing, that 3-0 deficit could turn into 3-1, or dare I say 3-2. And an early sign of bad luck, because I'm not going to kill Torrens. I really can't on this one. I got to be fair. You get Framber Valdez throwing a ball off the freaking backstop. Torrens tries to go to third, and to the credit of Yainer Diaz, he quickly picks it up, throws him out by a country mile. And on the surface, I get it. How can you make the final out at third with Juan Soto at the plate? Of course. Of course. Just using that sentence on its own, it's brutal base running, right? But how could you blame the guy? The ball gets past the catcher. It bounces off the backstop. Like, wouldn't we be freaking out? Even in this situation with Juan Soto at the plate with 2 outs, if a guy uncorks a pitch so wild it goes to the backstop and Torrens just stands there, like, obviously, as soon as that ball goes to the backstop, you're going to break the third base. What happened, and we see this a lot in some of these newer ballparks, we certainly see it at Citi Field, it was horrible luck. It was horrible luck. But remember when we got that great luck against the Phillies last year, the ball on the bag game against Philadelphia, that Sunday night, the final home game of the regular season, where the throw goes to third, it bounces off the third base bag. It was like the modern version of the ball on the wall game. And in that moment, after Edwin Diaz then got the final out, we're like, man, the luck's on our side. This is a situation in which the luck screwed us. But let the luck screw us on March 27th. I'll go with that. Let the bad luck get out of the way early. But I can't kill Torrens on that. That's just bad luck. So I want to get that off my chest, because as that play happens and I'm watching it and he gets thrown out and Soto's standing there with the inquisitive look and we're all sitting there with the grins of like, what the hell is going on? It really isn't Luis Torrens' fault, even though it sounds like it is, because he got thrown out at third base to end the inning with Juan Soto at the plate.
Well, I just want to say, add one more piece to that too, because what was so frustrating is I think it even hit the bag when it hit the plate, I think, when it first initially got by. And the way it ricocheted from everything, like Soto knew to go, and then he put up his hand immediately like, nope, this is a bad move. So he saw the ricochet and was like, uh-oh, this is going to be bad.
It's too late, though. Once that ball gets past the catcher, I mean, obviously you're going to take off. It was terrible luck. And it was one of those moments early in this game, really the first 7 innings of this game, where you're sitting there and you kind of know we're not winning this game. Like there's certain games you sit there and you watch, and just little things early kind of tell you the story of how things are going to go. You know, there were tiny things in this game. So go back to the 3rd inning. Juan Soto draws a walk with 1 out, and Pete Alonso hits this weak ground ball between 3rd and short. And give Isaac Paredes a lot of credit. He cuts it off. He makes the throw to second base. And my eyes are telling me Soto beat it. Even the broadcast thinks Soto beats it. And we're thinking, oh, Mendy's going to challenge this, and it's going to turn into 1st and 2nd, 1 out. He was out, but it was incredibly close. And so that millimeter of a jump that Soto doesn't get, or that just millimeter of a second where Soto doesn't get there in time, changes an inning completely. Because instead of 1st and 2nd, 1 out with Vientos coming up, you're talking about a runner on 1st with 2 outs. So it's a tiny thing, but it's an important thing. Then you get to like the bad luck continuing in the 2nd inning. That was the inning where the Astros scored there for it was the 2nd inning when Cam Smith comes up, runner on 1st, 1 out. Holmes is off to a good start, right? He has a good 1st inning, walks a guy, gets through it, gets Christian Walker out. He starts the 2nd inning with a fly out. Then he faces the bad luck of hitting Jeremy Pena. And then Cam Smith just hits a weak ground ball between 1st and 2nd. And it finds the hole. Pena goes 1st to 3rd. And the Astros are set up with 1st and 3rd, nobody out. And then just a ground out by Jake Myers turns into a run. It was a very bad luck inning. But I'm sitting there watching that inning from Clay, because this is early enough in this game where that inning felt very Clay Holmes as a Yankee-like. Because watching Clay closely last year, and really the last couple of years with the Yankees, a lot of his blown saves would just be bad luck. It would just be, he lost the strike zone here, walks a guy, gives up weak contact, gets a ground ball, and it just finds a hole, or someone makes a miscue. But when you're a reliever, you don't have a big margin for error. And one of the appeals of Holmes, when we were talking about him during the offseason, is you can have a bad luck inning. It's not going to kill you, because you can give up 2 or 3 runs and have it be a quality start. That 2nd inning felt very Yankees Clay Holmes-like. Nothing's hit hard. He had minor control issues when he's hitting Jeremy Pena and he's walking Brendan Rodgers, but he's not giving up a 3-run home run. He's not getting bombed, but it was just enough. So this game was littered through just a lot of the little things. Then you get to Luisangel Acuna. Luisangel Acuna gets the start, which I can't say I'm surprised about. We've talked about this for a while now with him potentially making the team, that if he did make the team, and the jury was out to the very last second, if he's going to start, it's going to be opening day, because Framber Valdez is on the mound. He's a lefty, and the Mets are not scheduled to face a lefty for another week and a half. And Brett Beatty's clearly going to get the opportunity at second base. So if you want to get Acuna at bats, it's going to happen on opening day against the Astros. So I kind of went into it thinking it was 50-50. Maybe they play Beatty against them. Maybe they figure, hey, we got to get Acuna sometime since he's up here. Let's start him opening day. And Acuna makes, I got to tell you, as brutal of an error, as deflating of an error as you're going to see. Because Jeremy Pena grounds in to what is a tailor-made, easy as pie, 6-4-3 double play. Holmes is getting through the 3rd, and it's 2-0. It's not the end of the world. It's not the greatest situation in the world. Clay was struggling, but Clay made the pitch to get out of the inning. Made the pitch. We talk about the bad luck that sometimes happens. Well, here's bad luck for him, and just pissed me off about Acuna. And I admit, fair or not, Lindor's comments is what causes me to get annoyed. Because Lindor is saying, he's bored in spring training. He was bored in the minor leagues. So now, naturally, I'm certainly not the only one. Anytime he's going to have a miscue, you're going to say, was he bored? Now, Acuna kind of made up for it a little bit later on, which we'll get to. But that error, when Lindor fields the Pena ground ball, and I thought he could have taken it himself. I guess I have to watch a replay to see if that's really fair, but I thought he could take it himself. But he flips it to Acuna. He doesn't even have the base runner bearing down on him. Like Yonder Diaz is Jeff McNeil away from him, if you know what I mean. And somehow he makes such a wild garbage throw that Pete Alonso, this is like me in fan baseball back in the day when I played first base. There'd be some throws that are so bad, I'm like, I'm not even going for this. I'm just going to watch it. I'm going to watch that run by me because it ain't even close. That's how bad that throw was by Luisangel Acuna. And the little things like that cannot happen. Cannot happen. Not when you're facing Framber Valdez, who's one of the better pitchers in baseball. Not when you're facing the Houston Astros. And in the case of Acuna, not when you're trying to prove yourself as a Major League Baseball player. So that error drove me nuts. Now, I'll give Holmes a little bit credit because right after that, 2 pitches later, he got through the 3rd inning. Lindor made a great defensive play. So you can see it, a lot of the little things throughout this game. Vientos is hitting ground balls every time up, bouncing into double plays. It was mediocre all the way around. The offense couldn't hit till the very, very, very end. And even then, what did we get? 1 freaking run. So a very frustrating opening day loss. Now, let me get to Clay Holmes. So how do we define 4 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, and 4 walks? Before I try to define it, there would be a guy, of course there would be. May I read an email right off the top? Emails are always fun when you're in the middle of the first game of the season. This is from Matt Mark Arell. He writes, I always know. Hate to always be right, but I do know baseball. Obviously, it's just one game, just one start. Obviously, it's against the team that collectively has had a lot of bats against him. But does anyone actually believe the Clay Holmes experiment is going to work out for more than just a few starts against the Marlins and Rockies? Oh, that's right. Evan actually does think it's going to work out. This guy is going to be ineffective or get injured 100% this year as a whole. Now, Clay Holmes made his first major league start in years. We all knew, as good as his spring training was, he's now going to have to do it every 5 or 6 days. It would be as irrational if he threw 7 scoreless to say, hey, I know the Clay Holmes experiment's going to work. See, let me do my victory lap. That would be as ridiculous as that email. Now, Matt, you may be right. The Clay Holmes experiment may not work. This is not about your opinion is going to be wrong. Your opinion may be right. You claim you know a lot about baseball. You probably do. So I'm not attacking that, and I'm certainly not going to tell you it's a lock Clay Holmes is going to win the Cy Young, even if I made a fun little bet on it. But are you seriously, especially if you claim to know baseball, going to sit here on March 27th and take any victory lap or any final result of Clay Holmes? I don't know if this is going to work. That is the most honest answer about Clay Holmes as a starter. I don't know. I'm hopeful it'll work. I'm hopeful that his stuff will translate. I'm hopeful he'll throw a lot more kick changeups than he did today. I'm hopeful he won't struggle 2nd time around the lineup, 3rd time around the lineup. I'm hopeful he's not going to walk 4 guys in 4 2/3 innings. I'm hopeful that the pitching lab will figure this out. But are we really going to do this on opening day? We're going to declare. I'm going to declare Juan Soto sucks. He can't handle Queens. He can handle the Bronx, but he can't handle the pressure of Queens. Are we going to do stupid stuff like that? It's one game. And as far as Clay Holmes is concerned, there were a lot of negatives in this game. I'm with you. But that's it? You're an idiot if you think it's going to work. Come on now. Can we be fair about it? So let's go through Clay Holmes' start. He strikes out Jose Altuve to start. Isaac Paredes hits a fly ball pretty deep to left field. No harm, no foul. He walks Yordan Alvarez, which may not be the dumbest thing in the world with 2 outs and nobody on. And then Christian Walker hits a smoker, but luckily it's right at Francisco Lindor. Sometimes you do need luck, as we've gone through. The Mets didn't have a lot of it in this game. He gets the first out in the 2nd inning. He hits Jeremy Pena. He gives up a weak ground ball that finds the hole between 1st and 2nd. Boom, we're talking 1st and 3rd, 1 out. He walks Brendan Rodgers, which cannot happen. I agree. 8th place hitter, cannot walk him. Can't load the bases up. Gets a ground ball against Jake Myers that happens to score a run. And then to the credit of Holmes, strikes out Altuve with runners on 1st and 3rd. So far, not a disaster. Shaky 2nd inning. Credit to Clay to fight through it. The killer for Clay Holmes in this game was his command, was his control. When you start the third inning after that laborious second inning that you had, the one thing you cannot do is walk Isaac Paredes on 4 pitches. And go back to that at-bat, none of them were close. I think he bounced like 4 sinkers in that entire sequence. You can't walk the leadoff hitter on 4 pitches. And even after he strikes out Yordan Alvarez, which is pretty impressive against the tough left-hand hitter, he gives up the base hit to Christian Walker. He gives up the base hit to Yainer Diaz, and then he's through the inning, right? He gets Jeremy Pena to ground into a double play, and that's when Luisangel Acuna throws that third run away. So let's be fair about these first 3 innings from Clay Holmes. 3 innings, shaky second, shaky third, but pretty much makes the pitches to avoid major damage. He's given up 2 runs, 2 true runs in 3 innings. Bad luck's a part of pitching, no excuse. But that third run was completely on Luisangel Acuna. He comes out for the 4th inning, again gets himself into trouble, and then gets Isaac Paredes to ground into that absolute circus-like double play. That was the double play where Vientos made the great pick. He makes the low throw to Acuna, who picks it. Then Acuna makes the wild throw to Pete, and then Pete makes that incredible scoop. Pete Alonso, 1 for 1 on scoopage if you're scoring at home. So again, Clay runs into trouble. He gets through it. Kind of the same thing in the 5th inning. He gets the first out on a very good play by Acuna when Yordan hits the ball hard. And then Christian Walker lines out the left field before he walks Yainer Diaz. That's his start. It wasn't a disaster. Like, I would not define this first start as a, boy, see, he sucks. I would say he didn't go deep enough in this game. And the reason he didn't go deep enough in this game is he threw too many pitches. The reason he didn't go deep enough in this game is because his command was off. Absolutely. There is another thing that Clay needs to be better at, and that is you're not a reliever anymore. You're going to face guys a second time and third time around. So let's go through that. First time around the order, the Houston Astros were 1 for 6. The problem was Clay walked 2 guys and he hit a guy. So through that first time around, 4 out of 9 guys got on base. Not ideal, but only 1 guy got a base hit, and the base hit was that little C&I single by Cam Smith. He was effective and tough to hit his first time around the order. Not surprising. He was one of the better relievers in baseball. The second time around the order, they were 3 for 8 against him, including the back-to-back hits that came in the 3rd inning. He ended up facing 5 batters when he faced them a 3rd time around, and you could see guys were getting great swings against him. He gave up a base hit to Altuve after he struck him out 2 times. He got the double play against Paredes, but the ball was hit hard. He got a ground out on Alvarez, but the ball was hit hard. And he got the line out against Walker, and that ball was hit hard. So this is where I think the adjustment is going to be a challenge for Clay Holmes. You got to get guys out a second and third time around. And you can see he was becoming less effective as the game went on. It's the exact opposite of what happened with Framber Valdez, where, and this is what aces do, like true aces, you better get to him early. Because if you don't get to a Framber Valdez early, you don't get to a Jacob deGrom early, they settle in and they're very, very tough to hit. Clay Holmes right now, early going of this experiment, it's going to be the opposite. We need to see if he's going to be capable of getting guys out when he faces them a second or third time around. First 2 times he faced Altuve, good stuff. But the 3rd time he gives up a base hit. And even the hard contact. Look, I'll defend him on a Cam Smith C&I single, but I also got to be fair when we look at the at-bats against him in the 4th or 5th inning. So what was Clay Holmes today? It was blah. That's how I would define it. It was a very blah performance. It was not great. His command needs to be better. He needs to throw more of that changeup that we saw a lot of in spring training. He just needs to be better, and he needs to give him more length. So want to do a letter grade off on Clay Holmes' first major league start as a New York Met? My letter grade would be a C-. Like, a C- is not great. And by the way, it's a C-, but if the goddamn offense could hit and they would score 5 or 6 runs like they're capable of, we're probably not even spending that much time talking about Clay Holmes' 4 2/3 innings, 2 earned runs.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, we saw him go, like, ease through spring, and I know that we never were going to actually get that type of Clay Holmes, at least the first outing. But you just saw, like, it was disappointing. I'm disappointed. Like, you got to want to give him a C-. I'm going to give him a D plus. Like, he wasn't that spectacular. And listen, the defense definitely didn't help out. The offense didn't help out. Nothing helped out. He didn't help him out himself either. You walked too many guys. Towards the end, you saw him getting tired. That was part of the problem too. But getting tired in the fifth inning it's going to be brutal if we're going to have to struggle each game like this. I don't think that's going to be the case, but his first outing was not great.
No, well, a C- ain't great. I mean, look, we're on the same page. It was not a great debut. I think, and I tried to do it in the last 5 minutes. We go under the curtain on what this performance looked like. It wasn't a disaster. He didn't get bombed. He had major command issues that needs to be fixed. I mean, look, 4 free passes and a hit batsman. That's 5 base runners in 4 2/3 innings that you are handing away. Plus, you give up 5 hits. That's 10 base runners in 4 2/3 innings. So it was not a great performance by Clay Holmes. And hopefully his next outing, which he'll be against the Marlins, so a little bit easier of a competition because the Astros are a good team, even though they're very different with the moves they made. They're very right-handed, which, if anything, you think would have helped them. But we'll see if he can improve all this, and hopefully he does. But he did throw 89 pitches. So Mendy was not keeping that pitch count very low on him today.
No, but let's also, and I know that we wanted to kill the defense as much as possible. Acuna with a little lackadaisical play at second base, but he did make some other good plays too. And so you have to look at the other side too. Like, maybe he did save a couple hits. That one play that kind of got a blind hop that he came up with both hands was pretty solid. The scoops from all the way around the diamond with Vientos to Acuna to Alonso. So, I mean, overall, it was not a perfect day, but there were some really good plays by the defense as well to help.
Yeah, I want to say this about Luisangel Acuna. I think he saved his day with that at-bat in the 9th inning because, look, I'm not going to kill him for going 0 for 3 against Framber Valdez. I mean, no one on this team really did much against Framber Valdez, so it's not necessarily about the offense, clearly. That error was a bad error. We already talked about it. It was a terrible, terrible throw. You're right. He made a couple of other decent defensive plays. But that at-bat in the 9th inning, it's almost like proving Lindor's point true. Like, the guy stinks. It's March 27th. He doesn't care. I'm joking, but, it's spring training. Who cares? Whatever. But turn those lights on, and I'm ready to go. And in the 9th inning, down by 3 runs with 2 on and nobody out, and you're facing one of the best closers in baseball, in Josh Hader, that is what I think we now have to phrase it as a lights-on moment for Luisangel Acuna. There's lights-on moments. There are lights-off moments. The entire spring training was a lights-off moment, right? The minor leagues last year, lights-off moment. When he got called up after Lindor got hurt, lights-on moment. Good to go. That at-bat against Josh Hader, that is a lights-on moment. And I am a sucker. I've said this a few times before. I am a sucker for a long at-bat. What turns you on? Is it long walks on the beach? Is it romantic novels? What is it? Well, for me, it's long-ass at-bats. I'm kind of kidding. Not really, though. Like, you remember that Luis Guillorme spring training at-bat a couple of years ago? Like a 22-pitch at-bat against Jordan Hicks? No, nobody remembers it. Well, a few people do. That at-bat was amazing. I talked about that at-bat for weeks. Meanwhile, it was a spring training game. That at-bat by Luisangel Acuna on so many levels, fouling off fastballs from Josh Hader, spitting on that 2-2 slider that was low. It was an incredible at-bat, especially for a guy who doesn't walk. Like, Luisangel Acuna doesn't draw walks. He didn't draw walks in AAA last year. He didn't draw walks in spring training until the last few games. He had 1 walk in spring training until the final week of spring training. And here you are in a 2-on nobody out spot, and you're battling and working a 12-pitch walk? That was an incredible at-bat by Luisangel Acuna. It stinks that Lindor and Soto couldn't come through with the exclamation point and make this an incredible win, kind of picking up where they left off at the end of 2024. That stinks, all right? But that at-bat, I don't want to go forgotten. So as much as I'm going to kill him for his defense early, and we're going to be probably going on about him with lights-on moments and lights-off moments, that was certainly a lights-on moment for Luisangel Acuna. Now we get to some moves that Carlos Mendoza made. Couple of moves you may like, you may not like. Number 1, He pinch hits for Luis Torrens starting off the 8th inning. So I'm kind of mixed about it because Torrens just had a double. And you also know that once you pinch hit for Luis Torrens, and you're down 3-0 in the 8th inning, so granted, you don't know if there'll be more opportunities. But once you pinch hit for Luis Torrens, you're done. Understand that if that spot in the order comes up, you're looking at Hayden Senger. And no offense to Hayden Senger, he ain't here for a stick. He's here for his glove. He's here for his defense. He's here because Francisco Alvarez isn't. So you're towing the line if you're Mendy in the 8th inning of, all right, I'm down 3-0. I got 9, 1, and 2 of the order coming up. I can't think about a potential another at-bat from this spot in the order. Let me just go get a quality at-bat from Jesse Winker or Brett Beatty, my 2 left-handed bats off the bench. But the negative is what we ended up seeing, which is that at-bat comes around, bases loaded, nobody out in the 9th inning, down by 3 runs, and you cannot pinch hit for Hayden Senger. And unfortunately, as much as the moment would have been cool, he's stocking shelves at Whole Foods to his first major league at bat, being in Houston, bases low. Like, sometimes things sound better than the reality of what it's going to turn out to be. No one in their right mind thought Hayden Senger was coming through with a base hit. Nobody. Come on. Maybe Mr. and Mrs. Senger thought that. I didn't think that. I don't think anybody else thought that. But I'm going to side with Mendy that in the bottom of the 8th, or the top of the 8th inning, I should say, down by 3 runs, you have to extend the game. You can't be thinking about a potential second at bat. So you decide at home. Were you against Jesse Winker pinch hitting for Luis Torrens to start the top of the 8th inning? Obviously, we don't have the foresight in that moment of knowing that spot in the order would come up with the bases loaded, but Torrens did pick up a double. The Mets did not have many extra base hits in this game. In fact, let me see. They had 6 base hits, 1 extra base hit, the 1 extra base hit from Luis Torrens. So you decide, all right? Email us, thericob@gmail.com. Or we'll start taking comments on YouTube. If you can do that, Hoff, let me know what people think. I have no idea. I don't know how this technology thing works. Just turn the freaking microphone on and let's talk. All right. Situation number 2 from Carlos Mendoza. If you're new to the Rico Brogna, you may find this part of the discussion weird, but when I'm watching a game, I'm going to first guess the manager. I'm going to do it all the time. Doesn't matter if you're the greatest manager of all time. Doesn't matter if you're the worst. We all do it as fans. We first guess everything that happens. Now, when the game is over, some of those first guesses turn out to be irrelevant because what you were first guessing turned out not to matter. I like to be fair here on the Rico Brogna. I'd like to at least bring it up and tell you what I was thinking while watching this game. So let's go to the bottom of the 8th inning. The Mets fail in their scoring opportunity in the top of the 8th inning, which we'll get to in a few minutes. But at the bottom of the 8th inning, they're down 3-0, so still a close game. 3-0 is not, it's still a safe situation. Devin Williams almost blew that for the Yankees earlier on Thursday. It is the bottom of the Astro batting order. You just got a tremendous performance by Huascar Brazaban. He throws 2 1/3 innings, gets you 7 outs, yippity-doo-dah. And you have a fresh bullpen. How can your bullpen not be fresh? You haven't played in a few days, and before that was spring training. You were dictating who's ready and who's not fresh. You also have 2 more games and then an off day. 3 more games and then an off day. So this is the freshest your bullpen could possibly be. Why is Danny Young in a 3-0 game coming in to face nothing but right-hand hitters? Why? I hated that. And I'll say it now, and I'm saying it at the 34-minute mark of this podcast. I'm not saying it at the 2-minute mark of the podcast because it shows you it turned out not to matter or it turned out to work. Mendy turned out to be right. But sometimes when a manager is right or when a manager is wrong, we need to be fair about what we thought in the moment. You have A.J. Minter. He was warming up. You have Ryan Stanek. You have Reed Garrett. You have Max Kranick, though I'm not going to include Max Kranick in this. Why are you throwing what I would argue is your worst reliever, who does not have good splits against righties, in a spot where it's nothing but right-hand hitters? Why? Why? If this is next week or 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now, when we bring this topic up of a pitcher coming into a game in a 3-run game, the odds are we're going to talk about keeping your bullpen fresh. We're going to talk about, well, that guy pitched 2 days ago or that guy pitched yesterday or they have a game tomorrow or they're in the middle of a stretch of 11 straight days. Like, there's going to be a lot of reasons why you're not putting your better reliever into a game. And I try to be reasonable over 162. But in game number 1, you're in a pretty good spot because you haven't played yet. You're in a pretty good spot because you got an off day in 2 days. Can you give me a better reliever? Now, here's what's funny. It worked, right? He gives up the leadoff hit to Jeremy Pena. The Astros give an out away when Chase McCormick bunts. And then to Danny Young's credit, he gets a strikeout and a ground out, and he gets through the inning. I'm just being honest that I did not like it in the moment. And here's the thing about a lot of Met fans, whether you want to admit it or not. I believe for those that were glued to this game, for those that are diehard Met fans, I bet you thought the exact same thing. The difference is because it worked, you're not bringing it up. You're not going to call WFAN about it in, an hour and a half or what have you. But yes, in the moment, I didn't like that. Now let's go back. What would you think about that, by the way? Am I being too nitpicky?
No, you're not, because they kept on saying on the broadcast too, well, Danny Young is going to get up to face Jordan Alvarez. They kept on saying it over and over and over. He never faced him. So what were we doing? What was the logic? I don't disagree. It worked kind of, but it made no sense.
Yeah, it didn't make sense. Luckily, Danny Young didn't give up any more runs, and it kept the team in the game where, look, we got the situation we dreamt of in the 9th inning. That's the bottom line. You get back-to-back base hits from Starling Marte and Tyrone Taylor against Josh Hader. You get that incredible Luisangel Acuna 12-pitch walk. You get Lindor and Soto with a chance to tie or take the lead, and they didn't come through. Simple as that. They didn't come through. Francisco Lindor starts off his season 0 for 4 with a sacrifice fly. We'll give it time, but we do know Lindor is now known for his awful starts. I know this bothered Pete, so let's address it. 8th inning. That was the other rally that I think in the moment we thought was going to be like the lasting image of this loss, losing 3-0. Of course, they ended up losing 3-1. And that is when Brian Abreu, with 2 outs and nobody on, still 3-0, walks Soto, walks Alonso, and walks Vientos. And Brandon Nimmo comes to the plate. I thought, it's weird because you can't see who's warming up in every bullpen. They should add that as a feature on the MLB app. I know the MLB app had a very rough day 1 of the season, but it'd be a cool feature where you can hit a button and see the bullpens of every single team in that game that's going on. Because we're watching the game, and SNY does a really good job, but they're not showing us the Astro bullpen all the time. So would they go to Josh Hader for a 4-out save on opening day? Would they bring in the lefty to take on Brandon Nimmo, bases loaded, 2 outs? Would they go to another one of their lefties? Or was there someone else warming up in the bullpen? But Brandon Nimmo comes up to the plate after Alonso and Vientos really draw those walks on close pitches and show a lot of restraint. It's not like it was 4 wild ones that weren't close. And Nimmo attacked the first pitch and hit a ball to center field that was easily caught by Jake Myers. As you may or may not know, if you're a new listener to the Rico Brogna, a subscriber to the Rico Brogna, Pete Hoffman has a hard-on for Brandon Nimmo. Does not like him. Does not want him batting 5th. Tomorrow he's going to bat cleanup. He'll hate that. He wants him batting 9th. And Pete was not happy with the fact that Brandon Nimmo swung at the first pitch after Brian Abreu walked 3 guys in a row.
Yeah, because you just saw that the location, and not for nothing, but Abreu was missing very close pitches. Like, again, like if the ABS was there, maybe they'd check a couple pitches here or there. But honestly, he was very close, just a bit off the strike zone. And Vientos and Alonso worked their tail off. And I love that. I mean, you talk about the Acuna at bat, where it was like 12 pitches. And wow, this is a
yep.
I got a stiffy over the freaking the fact that these guys were being so patient. And Alonso last year would have struck out at that pitch low outside.
Yes.
No doubt about it. Vientos, the fact that he was able to be in that count and find a way to get on base and walk was beautiful. And then Nimmo with the first freaking pitch, and I know it was dead red. It was right over the plate. But still, you should put that bat and have it resting on your shoulder.
You're dead wrong about this. With all due respect, I love you and I appreciate your passion and commitment to hating Brandon Nimmo. I really do.
You're welcome.
He got a 3-1. He got a first pitch slider that was right down the middle, and he missed it. I mean, he didn't hit it hard enough. He didn't find an alley. It is what it is, but he got the right pitch to hit. And I have no problem with him being aggressive. Brandon Nimmo, and you saw it in this game because his at-bat in the first inning with second and third 2 outs, he swung at the second pitch. Very aggressive. And then in the at-bat in the 7th inning, which he got a leadoff base hit, he swung at the second pitch. And then obviously in this at-bat, he swung at the first pitch. So Brandon Nimmo has had some at-bats where he's looking to be aggressive early. And I have no problem with that. Problem is he just didn't come through. But you are right about the quality of at-bats that Vientos and Alonso had in the 8th inning. And that's why, and this is why doing the Rico is very healthy. Because you start the podcast, I do at least, pissed, angry, Soto, Yankee fans are mocking us, and all that. And it sucks to lose. Sucks to lose that kind of game. But then you start to think about some of the good from the game and what it could potentially lead to. Pete Alonso's at-bats today were very good. And I know there isn't a bomb of a 3-run home run. There isn't a clutch 2-run double. But Pete drew multiple walks, and both of those walks were spitting on close pitches. Like, they were not guys being pitched around. Pete had some really good at-bats, even on the ground out. The one time he made out in this game was another long at-bat that went 3-2. And then he did have the base hit in the 6th inning with 1 out and nobody on, trying to start a rally. So it was a very good day of at-bats for Pete Alonso. It wasn't even just the 2 walks and the base hit. It was the quality of the at-bat. And Mark Vientos, who did not have a great day, bouncing out the shortstop every time up, he gave a great at-bat. Obviously, they're going to need more than that. You have to drive some runs in, but both of those guys gave you really good at-bats in the 8th inning. And honestly, when Nimmo flied out, I think most of us thought the game was over right then and there, especially knowing Josh Hader was coming in, especially knowing the bottom of the order was coming up. They didn't have the ability to pinch hit for Hayden Singer, as we talked about earlier. It was actually pretty surprising that they put that rally together in the 9th inning.
Which, by the way, just to go back because I didn't interrupt, but Winker did the same thing too. He attacked the ball on one pitch. And it was done. It was like, oh, here we go.
That's great. What you got to do, though, as a pinch hitter. Matt Franco used to do that all the time. He's one of the better pinch hitters in Met history. You got to attack early. And, sometimes you attack early and you ground out to second base, like the case of Jesse Winker. It's not always going to work, but I don't necessarily think that means it was stupid. Because think about it this way, Hoff. If Brandon Nimmo doesn't attack early, the count's 0-1. I don't know what happens next, but he's already behind the count because it was a slider right down the middle. If it was a pitch out of the strike zone, like the garbage Juan Soto swung out on 3-2 to end the game, fine. But that was a slider right down the middle, and Brandon Nimmo just missed it.
Yeah, and the reason why I disagree with that is because he's been having such tough time getting his spots and hitting his locations. Make him do it again.
Yeah.
And if you don't, if you're sitting dead red or you're sitting like if it's overplayed again, then okay, yeah, I gotta do it. But like make him do it because I don't believe he will.
We have an emailer, a loyal listener to the Rico Brogna and to Evan and Tiki named Dan. We started calling him Negative Dan at points last year and the year before. And he didn't like being called Negative Dan because his point was, I'm not negative. I'm just calling it like it is. So Dan writes this email as the game ended. Mets lose to the Houston Astros 3-1. We're 0-1 on opening day. And Dan writes, same script, different actors. The biggest problem last year wasted no time showing up. 1 hit through 5, stranding everyone that actually did get on base, shut out through 8, only to try and mount a furious comeback when you're left for dead and throw in first pitch swinging after they walked the bases loaded for good measure. It's the same exact script as last year, except without the miracle ending. And you can already see a trend that could form, where if Soto isn't driving himself in, nobody is. Way to come out of the gates hot, and just to add some extra salt on the wound, as a Yankee, he literally recorded the final out to beat the Astros, and with us, he was that out. I'm sure Yankee fans will have fun with that one. Well, Dan's right about the last part. The Mets... And to some, the Mets have always been under the microscope to Yankee fans, just like Yankees are under the microscope to some Met fans. We are more under the microscope to Yankee fans than ever before for obvious reasons. We took a great player away from them. And we all danced and celebrated, did it right here on the Rico, that great acquisition. And I don't regret any of it. But with that comes the heat. With that is going to come the mocking. The perfect example that I can give you, you know what I'm going to say. It's very, very predictable what I'm going to say, but I've lived it, so I need to explain it to 98% of the people who haven't, is when Kevin Durant chose Brooklyn. Most Knicks fans don't care about the Nets, never have. They went back to not caring about the Nets, right? No one cares about the Nets anymore. But in those brief period of time where Durant was there, Knicks fans would pay attention and mock when bad things would happen. And it's kind of the same thing. Like, if you want to be king, there's going to be shots at you. So it's part of the negative ramifications of it. And he's right. The irony, if you will, of the way last year started, Clay Holmes getting the save, Soto getting the big hit, getting the last out or the second to last out, I forget which one it was, with the outfield assist. And now this. Clay Holmes gets the loss. Soto strikes out on a 3-2 slider to end the game. It's going to be a part of just who we are, and we have to deal with it. As far as the first part of his email about the familiar script, yes, the Mets last year, despite finishing 7th in runs scored, at times were very frustrating. Absolutely. And there would be games where they would absolutely sleepwalk. After one game against a very good pitcher in Framber Valdez, which we do need to keep in mind, a guy with a career ERA of 3.30, a guy who's Mr. Quality Start. He went out and threw 7 scoreless innings. That's what he does. Like, I can't jump to conclusions based on that. And as far as who's going to drive Soto in, look, Pete Alonso got on base 3 times. Mark Vientos, he took an 0 for 3. And Brandon Nimmo didn't come through in a few big spots. But I don't think that's enough to say those 3 guys are going to struggle all season long. Let it become a trend, then we'll get worried. How about winning the second game of the season? Because Gary Cohen brought this up on the broadcast, and yes, I was thinking about it. We don't lose on opening day. This is rare for us. I think it's why it stings a little bit. As Met fans, we are spoiled. We know that the season will end badly, but the season usually starts well, right? We win on opening day. That's who we are. So as they were getting shut down by Framber Valdez, the opening day I kept thinking about was 1999. Because 1999, they got not shut out by the Marlins, but they were lifeless against the Marlins. They lost the game that night 6-2 or that afternoon. And the back page the next day said $90 million bust because the Met payroll was very high that year. It was $90 million. I think that's what it was. And it sucked, but they came back and they won the next day. 2000, same thing. They lost that first game in Japan. So the last time, and they noted this on SNY, that they lost opening day in back-to-back years until now was 99 and 2000. We can only pray to the baseball gods that last year was 99, which at times it felt like, and this year is 2000. At least we get to the World Series. Now, hopefully we're not losing to the Yankees, but at least we get to the World Series. But the key to a bad opening day is to win the second game of the season. They didn't do that last year. We'll see if they can do that on Friday night. Apple TV Plus. Tyler McGill against Hunter Brown is the pitching matchup. And it'd be nice to see these bats give you a crooked number because this was incredibly frustrating. Not a great way to start the season. With that said, there's 161 more of them. Let us not freak out. But hopefully this served at least as a little bit of a therapy session as the Mets lose on opening day to the Astros. Any thoughts about this game or thoughts moving forward? You can always email us, thericob@gmail.com, thericob@gmail.com. So here's the schedule during the season. We will give you Ricos after every series concludes. We'll also do some of these live reactions after a game when we can, if the game is worthy of it, if Hoff and I are available and feeling like it. But the one thing we can guarantee you, and this is our schedule throughout the year, is when a series ends, we'll always have a series-ending Rico Brogna. We were perfect with that last year. Never missed one. So that will continue. So this series happens to actually end on a Saturday, which is rare. So at some point on Saturday night, I can't tell you the time, but I can promise you, especially if you download the Rico Brogna, it will be in your inbox Sunday morning. And if you want to consume it live, subscribe to the WFAN page at YouTube, and you will get it live at some point on Saturday night. The other thing I wanted to add, I'm very excited about, is in my scorebook. In my scorebook, which I will hold up for you, I have a box, and it's called Star of the Game. It's an empty box. I don't know if you could really see it. And I write in the star of the game. It's a tradition I've been doing since 1996. And it is the winning team star of the game. So, for example, I'm going to write in the Evans Star of the Game box in my scorebook, Framber Valdez. But when every series concludes here on the Rico, we are going to pick the Rico Star of the Series. Now, the rules are a little different from my scorebook. It's going to be a Met. So if the Mets get swept of a 3-game series, we have to find our star of the series. It may be challenging. It may be bittersweet. Who the hell wants to find a star after we lost 3 in a row? We will attempt to do it. There may be series where we win all 3, and it's like, oh my God, we got so many stars. We have to pick one. So every series this season will feature a Rico Star of the Series. Who will it be for this opening series against the Astros? I have no idea. All I know is if you're down on the Mets or you want to celebrate a victory, whether it's at Citi Field, whether it's at home, you can knock one out of the park and raise the apple with Takara Chuhai, a sparkling cocktail that blends real Sochu spirits with delicious flavors of fruits locally grown in Japan. It's available at Citi Field in Fuji Apple, of course, white peach and lemon, the official sake of Rico Brogna. Enjoy responsibly. I can tell you that. Anyhow, please get through the season with us. Hopefully it won't be a disaster. And Juan Soto, wake the hell up. We can't be having these weak swings at sliders, 3-2 in the dirt to lose a game to the Astros. Thank you very much for listening, downloading, and subscribing to another edition, the first regular season edition of 2025 of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.